This is a broad international movement, by the way. This religious movement, the secular religious movement, because it is, in fact, a pagan religion of its own, has now infused into major church institutions. The left is great at this. They take over institutions and they wield those institutions as sort of meat puppets on behalf of their viewpoint. This is why, for example, the Church of England just voted in favor of blessings for same-sex unions. According to the UK Guardian, Church of England priests will be permitted to bless the civil marriages of same-sex couples in a profound shift in the church's stance on homosexuality after a historic vote by its governing body. The first blessings for gay couples should happen this summer. Individual churches will be encouraged to state clearly whether they will offer blessings to avoid confusion and disappointment. After an impassioned debate lasting more than 8 hours, the Church of England's National Assembly, the Church Synod, voted by 250 votes to 181 to back a proposal by bishops intended to end years of painful divisions and disagreement over sexuality. But emotionally charged speeches from those advocating full equality for LGBTQ plus minus divided by a sign happy face emoji Christians and those arguing that traditional biblical teaching on marriage and sex must be upheld signaled the debate is set to continue. The Synod also agreed the church will apologize for the harm it has caused to LGBTQ people and welcomed a forthcoming review of a ban on clergy entering into same-sex civil marriages themselves and a celibacy rule for clergy in same-sex relationships. Conservatives narrowly succeeded in amending the motion to state that it was church's doctrine of marriage between a man and a woman was unchanged. But they're still allowing blessings, and the Archbishop said, quote, "For the first time, the Church of England will publicly, unreservedly, and joyfully welcome same-sex couples in church." Okay, this obviously has nothing to do with historic or traditional Christianity or biblical belief. I mean, it is a direct rejection of that. Historical Judeo-Christian belief, biblical belief, suggests that homosexual acts are a sin. But secular worldview has now infused all of these institutions. And the idea is that if you say that certain activity is a sin and certain people have a predilection for this kind of activity, this means that you are intolerant and bigoted toward those people, which of course runs directly contra the basic premise of religion, which is that you are in charge of your own activity no matter the temptation, and that life is a struggle with temptation and we all fall short and we all fail. But that's what religion is. It's a demand to do things that you don't necessarily want to do on behalf of a higher morality. The Church of England has now been taken over by the cult of authenticity, the cult of secular left-wing authenticity and transgressivism. And you're going to see this increasingly because to pretend that what's happening on the left here with regard to social policy is not in fact a religion is to ignore what it is. It is a cult that requires, in some cases, human sacrifice. We'll get to that in just 1 second. First, there are a lot of crazy people out there, as we are hearing about, and they are pushing some really bad ideas. Well, why would you let anybody who is not you look into your data? There are crazy people out there. They want your data. They want to use it against you. I'm not just talking about like the local hacker who's going to use your data for nefarious purposes. I'm talking about big tech, which monetizes all your data, or the government, which works with big tech to spy on you. And the simple fact of the matter is you can protect your data the same way that I do, and you can do it quickly and easily with ExpressVPN. I use ExpressVPN to protect my network from being monitored. Your ISP can keep logs of your internet activity. With ExpressVPN, your internet activity is completely hidden. All it takes is one easy tap of a button for ExpressVPN to be downloaded, and then one tap of a button to secure all of your devices. It's super simple, which is why I've been relying on ExpressVPN for years. It will not slow your internet connection, which is a big thing for me because obviously I run an internet company. Stop letting the government spy on you. Take back your privacy and freedom at expressvpn.com/Ben. Get 3 extra months for free. That's expressvpn.com/Ben. And get this special offer for my listeners. expressvpn.com/Ben. Again, that's expressvpn.com/Ben. Now, unbelievably enough, the same dunderheads that push this particular religious cult of woke indoctrination, these same people also kind of control the economy. And that is not a good idea. This is just one reason why you should at least diversify a little bit into precious metals. Our friends over at Birch Gold can help you do that. The debt ceiling exceeded $31.4 trillion this week. Inflation is still well above 6%. It was 6.5% in December. And inflation is likely to continue for the foreseeable future because, again, the employment market remains robust. The simple fact of the matter is you cannot trust the government to handle your money, so you should at least diversify a little bit into precious metals. Gold has historically helped withstand inflation, geopolitical turmoil, and stock market crashes. You can consider converting your IRA or 401k into an IRA in precious metals today. You can own gold in a tax-sheltered retirement account. Talk to the experts at Birch Gold. They've got an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, thousands of happy customers, and countless 5-star reviews. Text Ben to 989898. Claim your free information kit on gold today. Then talk to one of their precious metals specialists. Text Ben to 989898 today to get started. Again, text Ben to 989898. Diversification, it's just a smart strategy. Every investment advisor will tell you that. Having a little bit of your money in precious metals the way I do is a good idea. Text Ben to 989898 to get started with my friends over at Birch Gold. Well, speaking of the religious impact of the cult of wokeism, they do require human sacrifice. They really do. And that has come in the form of literally taking children and then sacrificing them to the trans god. And it is terrifying stuff. I mean, I talked yesterday about this amazing piece from a person named Jamie Reed over at Barry Weiss's The Free Press, thefp.com. You should go check it out, in which she talks about her experiences at the Washington University School of Medicine Division of Infectious Diseases, working with teens and young adults who are HIV positive, and then joining the Washington University Transgender Center at St. Louis Children's Hospital, where they basically mainlined kids directly into quote-unquote gender-affirming healthcare with like one appointment. Suddenly kids were taking life-altering drugs that would sterilize them, drugs that would change their brain chemistry, and all the rest. Well, now, the consequences of this are becoming clear because of this whistleblower. The fact that it takes years for whistleblowers to come forward about the most obvious abuses I have ever seen is truly incredible. First of all, why would it even take a whistleblower to know right off the bat that pretending that boys who think they are girls ought to be given heavy doses of estrogen and then prepped to have their penises and testicles removed from them and given breast implantation surgeries, that this was going to be the way to cure gender dysphoria or help those kids, and that teaching in widespread fashion across every school in the United States the idea that boys can become girls and girls can become boys was going to be the solution here. That is such cultic nonsense, rooted in a Gnostic belief that there's a complete soul-body duality. Like you're a boy living in a girl's body, as though there is the you and then there is the body, and these are two completely separate things, right? In sort of a Cartesian fashion. Now, all of this is cultic garbage, but it became science, and then it was actually enacted on the bodies of children, on the bodies of minors, and now it is celebrated. And if you refuse to go along with this, then you are destroyed career-wise. People yell at you. Every college student must be forced to pay fealty to this cult, which is why when you enter a college orientation, the first thing they do is they now ask you your pronouns. You have to demonstrate that you have skin in the game for this cult. The consequences over the next few years are going to become very, very clear. We've already seen skyrocketing rates of mental illness. We have extraordinarily socially contagious rates of trans and queer identification. That has nothing to do with biology. That has everything to do with social contagion, and everyone knows it. But if you say that publicly, people get very, very angry at you, and the cult demands that you then be punished for your great sins. This is why I don't think Joe Biden's going to be able to escape all this stuff. I think Joe Biden is going to want to talk about the John Edwards to America stuff in 2024. I don't think he's going to be able to. I think he's going to be on a debate stage, and somebody's going to ask him, do you believe that boys can become girls? And he's going to have to answer yes. Somebody's going to ask him, how many genders are there? And he's going to have to answer infinite, because otherwise his own base will go after him. And then he'll say that it's unsympathetic or cruel to children to not allow them to mutilate their bodies, or for society not to go along with their delusions and instead to either watchfully wait or to try to inform them more properly, which is what any normal society would do. That in fact, your mental condition, the solution to that is not to chop body parts off or mutilate your body. But Joe Biden will be forced to answer those sorts of questions. Right now, the bill is already coming due. According to the UK Daily Mail, a St. Louis transgender treatment clinic is now under investigation for allegedly harming up to 600 children after a whistleblower claimed parents were bullied into allowing kids to take irreversible hormone drugs and undergo gender transitioning surgeries. Jamie Reed, that's the person we discussed yesterday, that former employee at the Washington University Transgender Center at the St. Louis Children's Hospital, told the Free Press the clinic administered a litany of irreparable treatments to minors, oftentimes without parental consent. Reed claims doctors would ask questions like, do you want a dead daughter or an alive son, in order to bully children's parents into going ahead with gender transitions, which again is a cultic behavior. And if you want to indoctrinate people in the cult, you say, would you like your kid to be happy in the cult, or would you like your kid to be suicidal? Now, in reality, suicide rates among teenagers are skyrocketing. They have been for a while, and they're going to get worse. So you would assume that with quote unquote more trans acceptance, that would go down. That is not actually what is happening. Instead, the reverse is happening, again, because we are actively indoctrinating our children into a cult of gender dysmorphia and gender dysphoria. The whistleblower told the Free Press that working at the center was, quote, like I was in a cult, and I had to deprogram my way out of it. Reed alleged in a sworn affidavit that the hospital openly lied about not performing sex transitioning surgeries on minors, claiming that one doctor, Dr. Allison Snyder Warwick, performed one at the hospital in the last few years. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey confirmed his office is now launching an investigation into the clinic following Reed's allegations, which he characterized as disturbing. Bailey said his primary goal was to make sure children were not harmed by individuals who may be more concerned with a radical social agenda than the health of children. In her affidavit, Reed said in one instance, a girl was prescribed cross-sex hormones because she didn't want to become pregnant. So she said, I don't want to be pregnant. So they gave her testosterone. This whistleblower says there was no need for this girl to be prescribed cross-sex hormones. What she needed was basic sex education and maybe contraception. But because the doctors automatically prescribe cross-sex hormones or puberty blockers for kids, meeting the bare minimum criteria, this girl is unnecessarily placed on drugs that cause irreversible change to the body. She alleged in another instance a patient asked for their breasts to be removed and was given the surgery at St. Louis Children's Hospital, but weeks later, the woman asked for them to be put back on. But by the way, you see this sort of language used by the trans cult. They'll say things like, well, we can stop puberty. We can always restart it. No problem. We can remove your breasts and then we can rebuild your breasts if you change your mind. That is not the way any of this works, guys. But the entire Democratic Party will be forced to perform acts of fealty to this cult, which is why Joe Biden is not going to be able to escape that track. This whistleblower said children come into the clinic using pronouns of inanimate objects like mushroom, rock, or helicopter. Children come into the clinic saying they want hormones because they do not want to be gay. Children come in changing their identities on a day-to-day basis. Children come in under clear pressure by a parent to identify in a way inconsistent with the child's actual identity. Yes, I mean, this is a major aspect here, is that because this cult has gone global and because it is media pushed and media celebrated, because of all of this, parents are now essentially engaging in Munchausen syndrome by proxy. They're transing their own kids, claiming that they are doing something virtuous for their kids, that they can pat themselves on the back. It is not a coincidence that the rates of transgender identification are sky high in places like Los Angeles and New York and San Francisco, and they are minuscule in conservative areas of the country. That is not because of the evils of conservative areas. It's because of the social contagion fostered by the adults in these other arenas. So it'll be fascinating to see how Democrats try to navigate this particular gap between the blue-collar base that Joe Biden so desperately wants to seek and the radical gender base and race base that they have cultivated up till now. I'm not sure that gap is bridgeable, and I think it's going to come back to bite them in a pretty serious way. Alrighty, guys, the rest of the show continues right now. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll get into your questions in the mailbag. Remember, you have to be a subscriber in order to get your question answered in the mailbag. Become a member. Use code Shapiro at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click the link in the description and join us.